there's a tremendous attraction about the women of the 1920s. There's a tremendous verve about them, a love of life, a taking on of challenges, a lack of self-pity to a generation which had seen such destruction and bereavement. It's quite astonishing. There's the way that they walk in those flat shoes, that tremendous elbow swinging power. And the women I want to talk to you about just now almost encapsulate that. We're going to go to Aberdeen in 1926. It's not in a great shape. Overcrowding, slums to equal Glasgow, women with extremely large families, a lot of unemployment, poverty. It's not good. And into this walks a woman called Fenella Paton. And she wants to set up a birth control clinic. That is the equivalent of walking into a fireworks factory with a box of matches. Because if there's one thing guaranteed to get people writing to the Aberdeen Express and the Press and Journal, it is birth control. Everyone's got an opinion about it. But Fenella doesn't listen to them. Fenella decides that she will open this clinic and that she will help the women of Aberdeen. Now, you would expect that a woman with these views, that she's going to go in there and she's going to sort the situation out, would be, communist, socialist, or flag-carrying revolutionary, but she's not. Fenella Paton is the daughter of a Liberal MP. In fact, Fenella Paton, before she was married, was Fenella Crombie, as in the Crombie coats. Fenella Paton is an heiress. Tragically, it was her brother that was killed in the First World War, so she fell heir to the family money. She herself is married. She's married in 1923. She's known about London, where she was raised. But she also goes to the teas in London. She goes to the salons. She goes to the meetings. She goes to the places where there are women openly talking about birth control and why women have to be in charge of their own reproduction. That will definitely help women out of the vicious circle of poverty that so many of them are trapped in. And so Fenella decides, as she goes up to Aberdeen, that is what she will do. She writes in one of her letters, I'm tremendously enthusiastic about the notions of family planning and birth control. She is quite the crusader. So she comes up to Aberdeen and she goes to a place called Gerrard Street, which is in the middle of the worst slum area of the city. And she decides to set up her clinic there. Now, just to give you an idea, she receives reports and letters about the conditions of women at that time in the city. And one woman has written that she has lost 4 children. She's had 7 pregnancies in 8 years. She's lost 4 children. And she's poverty stricken, but she's still paying for the funeral of the last one that died. So you can see the circle is vicious. So when Fenella chooses Gerrard Street, which is in the middle of this slum area, she knows exactly what she's doing. Gerrard Street isn't there anymore in Aberdeen and Stirling. The Luftwaffe took it out during the Second World War. This isn't a well woman clinic, for those of you that remember that. It's way more basic than that. It's only open 2 days a week at one point. But Fenella breaks with the other, the towering name in birth control, of course, Mary Stopes. She breaks with her because she hires a doctor and nurses, and crucially, someone to watch the children whilst the mothers are in for their appointment, which is a small but really telling detail. Mary Stopes didn't really go for the doctors. I've got a theory about that. It's possibly because they might have told her sometimes things she didn't want to hear. But what Mary Stopes did do was make sure that the Dutch cat was available as contraception. So that's what Fenella and her team use. What I also adore about Fenella is the fact that she puts her money where her mouth is. It's like no committee for her, no fundraising ball for her. She just uses her own money and opens it up, and bang, we are in business. And she is in business, and she is reaching out to the women in Aberdeen. She is taking an active stance in the birth control debate. Now, as I said, it was like running through a fireworks factory. If there was one thing guaranteed to get the letters coming in, it was the term birth control, or family planning, because sometimes they wouldn't even use it. Because believe it or not, I mean, we can believe, of course, that the sort of religious sides of the debate were appalled by all of this, but so were other people. Astonishingly, there were people in the medical profession who didn't think that birth control was a good idea. So that there were heads of obstetrics who said, "No, there's nothing wrong with large families. What's wrong with that? That's ridiculous. Everyone should have a large family. Very useful. Excellent idea." And there's one who says, "Of course there should be a large family. Five families, lovely, marvellous. Burns, Robert Burns, he had a large family. Didn't do him any harm. That's marvellous. Great, fantastic." So there were people like this who just did not get with the programme. There are other people who think that, of course, you should have large families. The Church of Scotland, would surprise you to know, was a bit iffy on the whole birth control situation. And there were people on the industrial side who didn't think that women should be controlling their own fertility either. And the reason for all of that boiled down very quickly and quite simply into two words: cannon fodder. There had to be a new army. We had lost a generation of young men on the battlefields. It was considered unpatriotic of women to wish not to have the warriors of the future. They should be encouraged. We need these people for our battles. But on the other hand, you did have medical professionals who turned around and said the exact opposite, and who pointed out that, unfortunately, what we were giving birth to at that time wasn't very good. Women who were having babies so constantly, it was inevitable that these babies were being born in poor situations, malnourished already, and the mortality rate was climbing. It was absolutely appalling. Therefore, Fenella was absolutely right to step in there and do something about it, and found the clinic and carry on, which she did. It was a success. Of course it was a success. Women wanted her help. Eventually, at some point, it's inevitable, Mary Stokes turns up. And it will not surprise you to know that it looks as if Mary and Fenella looked at each other for about 10 seconds and fell out. I have to say that Mary Stokes seems to have managed to fall out with absolutely everyone on the planet. So I guess Fenella probably thought that was a badge of honour. Fenella carries on and she keeps the good work going. She keeps the good work going in the face of misinformation and disinformation and scare tactics. And also in the face of cures. It would probably horrify you to know that a product called Lysol, which some of you may remember, Lysol, actively marketed itself as the woman's secret. Yeah, it was being used as a douche to prevent pregnancy, and it was also highly dangerous. It's essentially a disinfectant. So this was the background that Fenella found herself fighting against all the time. But she succeeded, and she did it. She did it with her own money. She did it with her own drive. She didn't take no for an answer. She didn't really care if people didn't like her because of it. She just went out there and did it. Fenella dies. She's only 14. She's only in her 40s of cancer, which is a real pity, because I would have loved to have seen who else Fenella would have annoyed as she got older, and what other new battles would Fenella have gone on to. Because with the arrival of the National Health Service, Fenella hands the clinic on to its care, which is where it blossomed. And as a slight and interesting sidelight, Aberdeen has a marvellous history of very caring birth control initiatives and bringing good healthcare to women right up to the present day. And I sometimes wonder if it was because of Fenella, her clinic, her profile, that the issue of women's health and their reproductive rights came to the fore in Aberdeen before it did in other cities. Whatever the reason may be, we should celebrate Fenella far, far more. And there should definitely be something to celebrate her if anybody's thinking of a plaque or a statue. As I say, you can't put it in Gerrard Street, but there must be somewhere in Aberdeen where we can say this woman was remarkable. And this woman changed women's lives.